Hello again. It is South Africa Tonight on this Friday evening. Now, this story is top of mind, especially with the weekend upon us. South Africans must expect more load shedding while Eskom works to resolve the electricity crisis, or tries to. Well, this is the message from Eskom CEO Adil Ruyter. Stage 2 load shedding expected to happen for the entire weekend. Let's break this down now with energy expert Adil Nchabeleng. He's going to tell us, if this is ever going to end. Adil, good evening, and thanks so much.
Yeah, well, so much.
I suppose we're not even angry about this anymore, because I think, do you get the feeling that South Africans have just gone, oh, well?
Look, I think now it's at the stage where they really don't care anymore. And the anger is really beyond, right? Yeah, because it's still irritating. I mean, not having lights, driving into an area and you find a full blackout. It's really a risky issue. I was just speaking a day ago with one of the security CEO, in the security industry, says, every time there's a load shedding, the entire alarm systems on their network goes off, and they have to be attending to something like 7,000 at any given minute. Calls coming in for alarms tripping, because that's what happens when it goes down and when it goes up again. It triggers the batteries and it just causes a huge unnecessary challenge and cost to business, by the way, and losses to business because you're losing money. So that is the situation with this load shedding.
I suppose, we might say, okay, well, it's going to happen on the weekend, so not too many people are going to suffer, but actually not. It's going to have a huge impact.
You're at home. What are you going to do?
But also businesses that run. Nobody closes on a Sunday anymore.
Exactly. You're at home. You're not having anything. You're supposed to be relaxing, socializing, having a good time. There's no electricity, which means a bigger depression. And I don't know, really, it's ridiculous. We shouldn't be enjoying this situation.
Well, unfortunately, we have to, according to Adil Nchabeleng, the CEO. And he says, he's apologized for it, saying we really, we have no other choice. But what is he talking about when he says they're now going to be adopting a new strategy they're going to be talking about? And what is this philosophy strategy?
Maintenance.
Explain that to us. I don't know what that means.
Look, the most important thing I think that came out of his address was they are now looking at what is required to maintain a plant and keep it running efficiently.
And they didn't do this before?
They haven't. According to what they're saying, they say they haven't done it. The program was there. There was a huge program on maintenance in terms of looking at how the plant should be operating. But when the new board came in the last 2 years, they abandoned the entire maintenance strategy. They focused on something else. Now he's back as the chief executive officer, and he's saying his strategy is they're going to follow an OEM, original equipment manufacturer, strategy of saying whenever we buy a part, this is the required maintenance process. At intervals, they need to do supervision, maintenance, replacement, wherever required, repairs, and all of those things, so that you keep the plant running. And on top of it, making sure that there is an efficiency element of it and there's no issues of really plant breakdown. It's a lovely strategy in terms of philosophy maintenance, but power plants are not cars. You're running massive generators that are all sorts of factors influence them. You can say, yes, you want OEMs to come and start advising you, wonderful, but how many OEMs do you have? There's over 3 million parts and components.
I was just going to say, how many days do you take?
Are you going to have 3 million, components and manufacturers come and sit with you and say this is how it should be done on a daily, regular basis? No, there already are people at plants who are trained, who are engineers, who are technicians, who are workers at the ground level, who understand what needs to be done. And those are the people that should be capacitated to understand what needs to be done in terms of maintenance.
But I suppose the question is, are there, though? Because we've been hearing for the longest time that, we don't have the right people doing the right jobs, that there's no morale. Is everything in place for that to happen?
There's lots of great workers at Eskom. The reason why we're enjoying the electricity we have is because of Eskom workers. One, they are. What they have done is they have starved maintenance with budget. There was no proper budgeting. There was no proper looking at power stations that are struggling in terms of maintenance backlogs, so they haven't been keeping up. And some power plant components and parts that had broken down, they just left them in the warehouse and never even bothered to take them in for refurbishment, for repairs, for renewal, or even buying new components for the power plant. So that's the situation they found themselves in. They didn't spend adequately enough. They didn't do what was right in terms of operational efficiencies. So that's the situation they're sitting with. So his philosophy is wonderful. Philosophy maintenance is great. It's the same program that if it's implemented correctly, they can achieve results. The aspect of what is worrisome is you're talking to yourself. You have to engage the workers to buy into your policy and your idea in terms of what do you have as a strategy. That's going to be a bit of a challenge because the unions are not buying into it.
Why?
Because there's other changes. They're introducing 3 separate boards. without going through legislation. Remember, Eskom is a legislated entity. You have an act that governs it. So they should have done the process of going the legislative route before you introduce a board. The legislation says this is how Eskom should be constituted, this is what should happen. Right now, the legislation of Eskom does not speak about 3 boards. That's a problem. How are they going to create now an interval
just creating more
solution?
problems,
So
right?
you're creating problems and you're becoming a rogue entity type, where you're just creating things as you're going. So they need to first look at what's in the legislation. There's an act. There's another thing, which we call a board, that regulates and actually operates. Then you have the executive management. They need to sit down and then bring the public with you. Right now, the public is outraged that they are going the unbundling route on a rogue and bullying way. Why are they not engaging the public to say, what should we do with Eskom? Should we sell it? Should we keep it? Because this is a national public asset owned by South Africans, individual South Africans owning it.
And that brings about a lot of questions, like the suggestions you made about, you know, what needs to be done maintenance-wise and practically. Obvious things. They are obvious things.
Absolutely.
Why did nobody do this in all of these years? And it just doesn't make sense. But nothing makes sense about this entire situation. 18 months, we have to put up, maybe even more. I mean, 18 months.
More than that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more than that. But thanks so much for that.
Thank you so much.
Let's just